Hello, everyone, and welcome to Crypto Basics with Hunter Rodriguez. How are you all doing tonight?
Loving life, Hunter.
Excellent, excellent. Glad to hear it. All right, so folks, tonight we're going to be doing a bit of a presentation in as far as how crypto works, and we won't be going into any live demos on this call, but this will essentially be a bit of a high-level peek into how the sausage is made when it comes to crypto. So with that, I'll go ahead and share my screen and pull up the presentation. All right, and yes, indeed, welcome to Crypto Cove. And just for y'all's information, this is what I typically like to call these types of calls is Crypto Cove. I think it's a rather catchy name that I came up with a bit over a year ago, and it's kind of stuck ever since. So I'll go ahead and start the presentation. And again, yes, indeed, welcome to Crypto Cove. I'm very excited to have you all here with me as we dive into the world of cryptocurrency together. Now, before we get started, some of you may not know who I am, so here's a brief sort of docket as far as I go. My name is Hunter Rodriguez, and I'm a 28-year-old crypto enthusiast currently living in Panama. I've been involved with cryptocurrency for about 15 years now, and let's just say it's been quite a journey. Lots of learning, lots of excitement, and plenty of trial and error along the way, let me tell you. But not to worry, you definitely won't need years of experience to follow along with what we're going to be talking about today. We're definitely going to be keeping it simple and beginner friendly. So if this is your first time hearing about crypto, or this is your first time having someone go through a bit of a dive into it with you, that's absolutely perfect. You're in the right place for this. So grab your snacks, grab your coffee, or anything else you might want, and let's dive into this fascinating world together. All right, so here's what we'll be covering today. We'll be covering what cryptocurrency is, just the basics to get us all on the same page. We'll be going over a quick introduction to blockchain technology. We'll then be talking about how Bitcoin works and how it ties into blockchain. And I definitely like to use Bitcoin as the case example because it's definitely the foundation of the cryptocurrency space. Anything and everything involving crypto can trace it back to Bitcoin in one way or another. Then we'll be going over the benefits and risks of Bitcoin so you can see both sides of the coin. And finally, we'll then wrap up with a Q&A session where you can ask me anything, whether it's about the slides or anything else crypto related that's on your mind. So with that in mind, please hold any questions you may have until the end of the call. All right, so let's start with the big question that anyone new to this space often has. What is cryptocurrency? Well, simply put, it's a digital currency that only exists online. Unlike traditional currency, which we call fiat currency, crypto operates on a decentralized system, meaning there's no central bank or government controlling it. Think of it as a separation of money and state, essentially. It's a revolutionary idea, really, bringing financial power back into the hands of the people, which is why we use it so much around these parts. Why is this important? You may be wondering. Well, cryptocurrency can't be counterfeited, and transactions are highly secure thanks to advanced cryptography. Plus, it's entirely transparent. Anyone can view the ledger of transactions if they want to. Imagine a world where financial transactions are open and accessible, yet private at the exact same time. Now, that sounds like a game changer, wouldn't you all say?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So with that in mind, there are thousands upon thousands of cryptocurrencies out there. More and more are made each and every day. But let's take a bit of a brief look at some of the most popular ones out there. Now, Bitcoin. Bitcoin definitely needs no introduction. Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency, and it's the one we'll be focusing on today. It's often referred to as digital gold. Ethereum, known for its smart contracts, which we'll touch on just a bit later, you can essentially consider it as being like programmable money. Litecoin. Now, Litecoin is often called the silver to Bitcoin's gold, and it's designed to be faster for transactions and cheaper to boot. Dogecoin. Now, chances are you've heard about Dogecoin before. It started out as just a joke because of how seriously the folks over in Bitcoin communities took themselves. And there's definitely some bit of jokes in there. Like, for example, the original to the moon concept was entirely from the Dogecoin space. But today it's a widely recognized cryptocurrency thanks to its vibrant community, as well as some influencers that have helped prop it up quite a bit. Now, one thing I do want to note is that Dogecoin has nothing to do with certain government agencies that happen to share the same ticker symbol. Now, these are just a couple examples of all the different cryptocurrency out there. Now, each one has its own unique features and use cases. Some are meant for payments, some are meant for applications, and others are meant for entirely new financial systems. So we start with Bitcoin, then grew into a whole big ecosystem that has essentially become a whole new financial world out there, completely separated from the traditional financial system. And with that, let's take a quick stroll down memory lane. In 2008, Satoshi Nakamoto introduced the concepts of Bitcoin with the Bitcoin white paper. To this day, no one knows who Satoshi really is. It could be a person, a group, a company, or even an AI. It's all part of the mystery that makes Bitcoin so fascinating. In 2009, Bitcoin officially went live with its very first block, known as the Genesis block. This is where it all began. In 2010, the very first Bitcoin transaction for physical goods happened. Someone bought two pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoin. And yes, I know what you're thinking, and yes, indeed, pizzas. Today, those pizzas would be worth several $100 million. Imagine that. Those must have been some really good pizzas, when you all say. And in 2015, Ethereum launched, paving the way for decentralized finance and a whole new way to use blockchain technology. Since then, crypto has been evolving at lightning speed. New projects, technologies, and use cases emerge almost daily. Now, before we move forward, let's backtrack just a bit for a moment and talk about Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, some of you may be wondering, despite what I just said a moment ago, who or what is Satoshi Nakamoto? And as I noted before, the truth is we really don't know. Satoshi is the pseudonym used by the person or group that created Bitcoin. It could very well be a single genius coder, a big, gigantic team of developers, a large company or conglomerate, or an artificial intelligence. Over the years, many have speculated about Satoshi's identity, but to this day, no one has ever been able to offer definitive proof as to the identity of this mysterious specter, I suppose you could call it. This anonymity adds to the mystique of Bitcoin and its origins. What we do know is that Satoshi introduced Bitcoin to the world in 2008 and then stepped away from it just a few years later. The mystery of Satoshi remains one of the most fascinating aspects of Bitcoin's story, and you'll find anyone in the space that's been here a while starts to consider the question, who is Satoshi Nakamoto? But I'm going to ask each and every one of you right now, and I don't want an answer right now. Who is Satoshi Nakamoto? Think about that, and I'll ask again at the end of the call. All right, now that we know what cryptocurrency is, let's talk about the technology that makes it all possible. Blockchain. A blockchain is essentially a digital ledger that records transactions across a network of computers. It's called a chain because it's made up of blocks of data linked together in chronological order. Think of it like a book where each and every page is locked in place once it's written, and everyone has a copy of the book. Key features of the blockchain include decentralization. No single entity controls it. This makes it faster and fairer, as well as less prone to corruption. Immutability. Once data is recorded, it cannot be changed. A huge plus for trust, I'd say. Transparency. Everyone can see what's happening. Everyone who is interested can go to a block explorer, like, for example, mempool.space for the Bitcoin blockchain, and take a look at what transactions have went out recently. Think of it as financial accountability. And last but not least, security. Thanks to strong cryptography, it is incredibly secure, making it very difficult for hackers to alter the data once it's been recorded to the blockchain. So, where exactly is Bitcoin, you may be wondering? You may have used it quite a bit, but you may not have stopped to wonder where exactly it is. Well, Bitcoin is the very first cryptocurrency, and some might argue the most important one. Bitcoin is both a digital asset and a payment system. What makes it special is that it's decentralized. No single authority, like a bank or government, controls it, and no company ultimately controls it either. New Bitcoins are created through mining, a process we'll talk more about in just a bit. Bitcoin is often referred to as digital gold because it's limited in supply. Only 21 million Bitcoin will ever exist. 21 million is all there can be. 21 million is all there can ever be. This scarcity, combined with its growing adoption, gives it its value. It's secure, transparent, and global. Anyone with an internet connection can use it. Bitcoin is created through a process called mining. Miners are powerful computers used to solve complex math problems. And when they succeed, they're rewarded with Bitcoin. This process also helps verify transactions and add them to the blockchain. Think of the mining process in this context as like a giant digital puzzle. The miner who solves it gets to write the next page to the Bitcoin ledger and earn some Bitcoin in return. Sounds pretty cool, right? But mining isn't just about earning rewards. No, 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 no. It's also about maintaining the network security and integrity. Without miners, the system just wouldn't work. Now let's talk just a bit about the Bitcoin blockchain in particular. When you make a Bitcoin transaction, it doesn't just go through instantly. First, it's placed into something called the mempool, a sort of a sort of waiting room for transactions. Miners then pick these transactions and add them to a block, which gets added to the blockchain. But here's the cool part, though. Miners can pick the transactions and add them to a block, and the structure ensures that once a block is added, it cannot be altered. Every block links back to the previous one, forming a chain of blocks, hence the name blockchain. The Bitcoin blockchain is essentially a public ledger open for anyone to view. It's the backbone of Bitcoin and what makes it so secure and trustworthy. Bitcoin has several benefits. No government or bank controls it. This gives people financial freedom. Bitcoin also has lower transaction fees than the traditional financial system, especially for international payments. Now, who among us here has ever made an international wire or even just a domestic wire? You probably encountered fees that were substantial, even if you were sending a small amount. Whereas with Bitcoin, it's a fraction of that cost. And again, you can send money wherever you'd like to whoever you'd like, so long as they have a Bitcoin address and an internet connection. Bitcoin transactions can be pseudonymous if done carefully. This is great for people who value their financial privacy. And ultimately, all you really need is a internet connection to participate. It's a financial system that cannot discriminate. All this put together creates a financial system that is without borders. Now, if you ask me, that's definitely something we should all strive for, even in the traditional system. Wouldn't you all agree?
Yes.
All right. And with that in mind, one of the most common questions people ask after they hear something like that is, if Bitcoin transactions are pseudonymous, how do you know who to pay? And that is indeed a great question for crypto newbies. It all comes down to Bitcoin addresses. You see, when you create a Bitcoin wallet, you're given two keys, a public key and a private key. The public key generates your Bitcoin address, which is what you share with others to receive payments. You can think of this as like an email address. The private key, on the other hand, is like your password. It lets you access the funds that are in your wallet. And one thing that I do want to put a finer point on, never, ever share your private key with anyone. I will never ask for it. No one here will ever ask for it. No one that claims to be helping you will ever ask for it. No one will ever ask for it. We'll stop. And if anyone ever does ask for it, then chances are they're trying to steal your money. To pay someone, you simply enter in their Bitcoin address into your wallet and send the funds. It's simple, secure, and as long as you have the right address, there's no room for error. Of course, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Here are some risks that show you the other side of the coin. Bitcoin's value can swing wildly. One day it's up 20%, the next it's down 10%. It's not for the faint of heart. And as far as the regulation environment is concerned, some governments embrace Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, while others restrict it or ban it. The regulatory environment is changing constantly. In El Salvador, for example, Bitcoin is legal tender, good for any debts, public or private. Whereas in some other countries, the mere act of owning or using cryptocurrency is a criminal offense. Security risks. If you lose your private key, you lose access to your Bitcoin forever. There's no customer support to help you recover it. So if I decide to say go up to the C or Bitcoin, there are two things are going to happen. And I'm not going to get anywhere ultimately because number one, the CEO of Bitcoin is going to say, wait, who are you? How do you get in here? Security, don't validate his parking. And the second reason I wouldn't get anywhere with that is that there is no CEO of Bitcoin. And last but not least, there's also scalability. As more and more people use Bitcoin, the network can get congested, leading to slower transactions and higher fees during busy times on the network. All right, so let's recap. We established what cryptocurrency is, as well as its purpose. We went over the basics of the blockchain and how it works. We went over how Bitcoin functions as the first and most popular cryptocurrency and first use case of the blockchain. And we went over the benefits and risks of using cryptocurrency. So this was meant to be a short and brief presentation for you all, just so you can get some ideas to how the sausage is made. So with that, we'll move into a Q&A session. So does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask?
Hey, Hunter, can you give us an example of, you've gone over Bitcoin and the basics of the blockchain and so on. Can you give us an example of how someone would use crypto to transact with the real world or interface with the real world?
Yes, indeed. Besides the example I gave with the first fiscal transaction that ultimately used cryptocurrency, that being the two pizzas that were ultimately paid for with Bitcoin. There's also several different stores, communities, and online shopping centers that accept Bitcoin as well as other cryptocurrencies. Like, for example, one such store, known as Bitrefill, allows you to buy virtual gift cards for your favorite stores with several different types of cryptocurrency. And let me just pull that up so you all can see it. One moment here. All right, so this website allows you to use your cryptocurrency in order to purchase gift cards for your favorite stores. Like, for example, we see Papa John's here, we see Amazon, we see a digital prepaid Visa card, and that's just scratching the surface, really. If we go over to all gift cards, we can see that there's quite a few places that Bitrefuel supports and quite a few ways for you to use your cryptocurrency. And in some countries, you can also top up the balance of your cell phone account with Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency. We've done that several times ourselves here in Panama to top up our phone accounts balances when we need to purchase new plans on our prepaid plans. For that, we would go through Moss Mobile since we use Moss Mobile. Then we would put in the amount that we want to top up our phone accounts with, then the phone number that we want to top up. Then we can hit add to carts and go through the process of sending the Bitcoin or any other supported crypto to Bitrefill. And then we'll have funds deposited into our phone accounts so we can either just top up our balances just right in there, or we can use them to buy plans if we need to re-up our phone plans for another month, since we tend to use prepaid plans here. So that's one use case, and one use case that we use all the time. It's definitely something that's come in handy for us quite a bit. And there's plenty of other places where you can use cryptocurrency. And I do have a couple other places like that in area of my toolbox. And I'll paste a link to that in the video description. And actually, now that I think about it, I'll go ahead and paste that into the chat here so that you all can see it here that are on the call as well. All right, and Jackie asks, can you go direct to Bitrefill or must you go via Stripe? Now, Bitrefill will accept pretty much any wallet. So as long as you have your crypto somewhere where you can access it, then Bitrefill can absolutely work with it. Now, I definitely recommend using a decentralized wallet or a wallet that you control entirely because number one, that's more secure than leaving your crypto on an exchange for a large number of reasons. And number two, exchanges will often back transactions to the point where they'll send your transaction just whenever they feel like it. Whereas with a decentralized wallet, like for example, Exodus or MetaMask or Trust wallets, you have complete control as to when your transaction is sent. So you can indeed go direct to Bitrefill and use whichever wallet or service you use to hold your cryptocurrency. Alrighty, so are there any other questions, comments, things of that nature? Dib asks, what advice do you have for bracing against the volatility of Bitcoin? Now, that is a very good question, and it goes into the concepts of stable coins. Now, I wasn't planning on going into this for this call, but briefly speaking, stable coins are tokens on several different blockchains that are paid against the value of a fiat currency. The most popular one is USDT or USD Tether, and this is paid to the value of the United States dollar. There are a couple different other currencies that are used for pegging with several other different types of stable coins. Like, for example, there's also one that's essentially a cryptocurrency form of the euro that's paid to the value of the euro. There's also one called Tether Gold that's paid to the value of 1 ounce of gold, essentially forming a tokenized form of gold. So if you're looking to brace yourself against the volatility of Bitcoin and for that matter, the cryptocurrency market in general, the answer you're looking for is stable coins like USDT, USDC, and many others. Beyond that, ultimately, the best advice that I have is to accept the volatility because we definitely do see some days where Bitcoin is down 10% and up 20% the next day. Now, that may seem like cause for concern, especially nowadays, given the price of Bitcoin. But for those that have been in the crypto space for a while, that's really nothing, really. And if we saw that today, do you know what folks like me that have been in the community for so long would call it? Would anyone like to take a guess? We would call it Tuesday because that used to happen constantly, really, several times a day. There's even several memes going over the concepts. One of the most popular ones is a roller coaster with a cartoonish Bitcoin on it, and it's just going up and down, up and down, up and down. I'll post that in the groups after we're done here. Liam asks, do you see crypto being adopted mainstream in the future, or will it always just be a fringe part of the financial system? I absolutely do see it becoming more mainstream. And we see it with several governments even now that are starting to embrace it more and more. Like, for example, the strategic Bitcoin reserve that the United States is building up, and several countries are following. And we also see El Salvador, for example, where Bitcoin is legal tender, well, that's public and private. And Panama, the country where I live, is also starting to try to become a bit of a crypto hub for the Latin America region. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are not taxed here. And down in Panama City, you can also pay for certain government services using cryptocurrency. So I absolutely do see it being adapted into the mainstream. Eventually, we could very well see it get to the point where it could supplant fiat currency. Now, some of you may balk at that idea, and you can definitely raise a lot of fair points, but ultimately it boils down to the fact that we may very well want to move away from a financial system that's owned, operated, and controlled by governments that probably don't have yours and all mine's interests at heart. All right, Jackie asks, do you expect Bitcoin to drop a lot more than it has in the last few months? I have seen lower projections. Bitcoin is definitely starting to stabilize quite a bit, although there is obviously always going to be room for it to drop. But for right now, we're definitely in a calm period, and I could definitely see it going up from here because most of the take profits that are at this level of where Bitcoin is at right now in terms of costs have already been taken. So it's just a matter of folks buying into Bitcoin more and more, which again, we'll see more and more of as time goes on. They have a long answer to a short question, but I don't see Bitcoin dropping a lot more right now. Could it? It absolutely can, and I dare say it probably will at some point. But it will always rise back up because again, it's it's a scarce utility, it's a scarce commodity, and what does scarcity always do? It goes back up. iOS takes Bitcoin. Interesting by Nate B. Yes, indeed. The IRS has changed their opinion on Bitcoin quite a bit over the years, and it's definitely something to keep an eye on. And I definitely won't go too deep into that because I'm not a taxpayer. I'm not a sort of financial consultant, accountant, or anything else of that nature. So if you own cryptocurrency and you're concerned about any tax implications, then that's something that you would probably want to talk to a local professional about. Now, I'm no one's mother, I'm no one's father here, so I don't know what you're doing with cryptocurrency, nor do I want to know. So I'm not going to snitch on any of you all if any of you decide that you're just going to not say anything. But that's definitely an unofficial position. So you all make of that what you will. Alrighty. So are there any other questions, comments, things of that nature?
Hi, Hunter. I'll just jump in. I just want to say I think your crypto theme is lovely. What did you call it?
Thank you.
Crypto Cove. I
I
just think,
called it Crypto Cove. Yep.
yeah, I think that's really cool. And if you are into training people, especially newbies, in crypto, I think it's a wonderful theme and it comes across very well. So well done.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's just a name that I came up with a little over a year ago, and honestly, it just stuck because I couldn't really think of anything better. So we're stuck with it now, and that's the way it's going to stay.
Yeah. I was just curious when you were speaking about who created Bitcoin, and you said, well, some people think it could be AI, but I'm thinking, wasn't that way before AI? So I'm thinking, well, what AI was there then? You had me curious.
Well, AI hit the mainstream around 2021, 2022, but it did exist well before then, just in a bit more of a primitive form than we know of it today.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, Viv asks, so if a person can hold Bitcoin without needing it just now, it pays to hold it? Absolutely, 100%. All right, so are there any other questions, comments, anything of that nature?
Hunter?
Yes.
Yeah, I ask a quick question. It's something that I run across quite a bit when speaking to crypto newbies. And they'll ask me, say if you have an employer or if you have an investment, if you have a business that happens to pay you in Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency,
Mhm.
how would you then take that, in your opinion, and use it in the real world? Say if you're going to the supermarket, if you're going to a restaurant, whatever the case may be, what are some examples there?
Well, one of the more classical examples would be to sell that crypto on the exchange. Like, for example, Coinbase is one of the more popular ones, so I definitely don't recommend that unless you really have no other options. Gemini is also another popular exchange, as is Binance, Crypto.com, and Kraken. But there's also several other ways to use your crypto, like, for example, using Bitrefill to buy gift cards for your favorite stores, like we went over a little while ago. And we've also reached a point where there are also several crypto backed debit cards out there, like the Crypto.com card, the Ultimate Pay card, and the Vault 27 card. What these allow you to do is you can load your crypto onto the card, and when you go to make a payment, the merchant behind the card, the system behind the card will then sell your cryptocurrency to pay for the value of that transaction. And as far as the merchant is concerned, nothing special has happened really. To the merchant, it just looks and acts like a regular debit card.
Hunter, Viv here. Can I jump in a second?
Of
Can you
course,
hear me? Oh, you can. You
yes.
can hear me. Good. I didn't test my headset before I got on. So you're talking about what Dell said about the mainstream. Someone pays you in Bitcoin or crypto, and you need to now go to the store or whatever. We have, I think, three of them in my city. The Bitcoin ATMs. Do you recommend those?
I typically don't unless you really don't have any other option because Bitcoin ATMs or BTMs, as they're called in the industry, typically charge really high fees that border on being predatory. There are several different jurisdictions that are actually starting to ban or outlaw them entirely due to the fact that they're often used to swindle people out of their hard-earned crypto. Now, I don't agree with several different local jurisdictions doing that, but I do agree with the fact that they are definitely a boon to scanners out there, and they're definitely a boon to the companies that set them up because they charge an arm and a leg in terms of what fees they charge. I've seen some that charge as much as 50% of your transaction.
Wow. Okay.
Yes,
That's good to
so
know. Thank you. I will
definitely
avoid them.
don't do that. Yep,
Okay.
definitely avoid them.
Good. Thank you.
Right, how secure is Bitcoin? It's secure. Is a good hedge against devaluation of fiat currency with gold and Bitcoin.
I think I
I'd
said
say so.
Bitcoin Gold, if that's the right term for um the stable coin. Did you say Bitcoin Gold earlier?
Tether gold, actually.
Tether Gold,
And
sorry, I've got the wrong
yeah,
name. Sorry.
let me go
Okay.
ahead and actually pull that up on Coin Market Cap so you all have
Okay, I
a
thought it
bit
was
better idea.
Bitcoin and gold. I thought it was Bitcoin and gold, and I thought, wow, you got two good, valuable assets holding the value of your currency. That's why I thought it was a good hedge.
Right, so let me go ahead and share my screen again. And yes, indeed, this is Tether Gold. Now, Tether Gold, as I mentioned before, is a stable coin backed by gold. And this is Tether Gold is ultimately paid to the value of 1 ounce of gold. And each and every one is backed by 1 ounce of gold held in a vault in Switzerland. So it's essentially a tokenized form of gold and one that's arguably a bit more convenient than traditional gold, since you can transact with Tether Gold more easily than you can with traditional gold, since this is ultimately divisible up to 8 decimal places, whereas with gold you can't really do that.
Okay, thank you.
At least not easily. Now, of course, everything has its pros and cons to it because if you're using tokenized gold, then that means that you're not using physical real gold that you're holding right there in your hands. So definitely some pros and cons to it, as with most anything in life. So yes, it's absolutely secure and definitely a good hedge against the devaluation of fiat currency. And indeed, Bitcoin is as well. I can think of several different cryptocurrencies that would ultimately be a good hedge against the devaluation of fiat currency. All right, and Liam asks, what's your opinion of altcoins, tokens, or are they worth going after, or are they mostly garbage? Now, hundreds upon hundreds of different altcoins are made and put onto the market per day. In general, most of them are garbage, but you definitely do also see some diamonds in the rough as well. Dogecoin was originally considered garbage. Look where it is now. Litecoin might have been considered garbage at one point. Look where it is now. Ethereum might have been considered garbage before they got their network all set up in 2020. Look where it is now. So most of them aren't going to be worth going after, but if you see one that seems to be doing pretty well, keep an eye on that one, especially if it looks like it has some good tokenomics to it and not just a matter of the price seems to be going up because one or two influencers are promoting it in order to try and make the price go up. Because that's unfortunately a big problem in the crypto space where you'll see some people promote one particular token as much as they can. And you'll see a lot of people try to push the price up as much as they can when they hold a lot of that token. And then when the price goes up as much as they want to go up, then what those people will do, the folks that have spent all that time and energy promoting that token, will then go ahead and sell all what they have. They'll ultimately make a pretty penny doing that. And for anyone else that didn't know they were going to do that, anyone who was outside of that inner circle, well, they get left holding the bag, and that influencer then basically says, "Hey, thanks for the money." So that's definitely something that you want to keep an eye on for, and there are several different places that can help you do that on the internet. I have a bit of that education on the Crypto Services directory. Dib asks, could you explain tokenomics a bit and how we watch for it? So this goes into a bit more of the intermediate to advanced side of things, but in general, tokenomics are a matter of what gives a cryptocurrency its value. Like, for example, if you see a strong team behind that particular cryptocurrency, then it might make sense that it might be worth more than a token that doesn't. If you see a lot of people using the cryptocurrency and you see it has a lot of utility to it, then that's another good example of tokenomics. In fact, it's a very good question to ask about whether cryptocurrency that you're considering investing in. And that question ultimately is, what is this particular cryptocurrency trying to do? Or what particular problem is this particular cryptocurrency trying to solve? And if that reason seems like nonsense to you, then there's probably a good reason for it. Now, this isn't true in all cases, and that's just one of many different factors that you should consider. But that's definitely a brief high-level look as to what you should consider as far as tokenomics goes. And we can definitely go further into that on future calls if folks are interested in that. Alrighty, so are there any other questions, comments, anything of that nature? Alrighty then. So, folks, this is why I'm going to ask for just a bit of feedback. What do you all think of the call in general? Do you think I did a good job providing a brief high-level overview? Is there anything you'd like to see talked about further in future calls? Is there any topic you'd like to see me cover in depth in the future? Anything of that nature? Anything is fair game, really. Because I really want to see how this community liked this call, and I really want to see what this community would like to see next.
I was typing, but I thought it's probably quicker for me to talk, Hunter. So a really great overview. I like that it was simple for those who are starting out with crypto, just at the very beginning. And maybe as we go further, if you're up to it, we could maybe talk about wallets, different types of wallets, like the centralized, decentralized, and all of those things. Because even though there are decentralized ones, sometimes those ones have been compromised by whatever software they're using or whatever. So maybe we can sort of take a wallet at a time, or maybe do a wallet comparison one time if you up
We
to it.
could.
Awesome.
Yeah, this definitely isn't the end. Rather, this is just a bit of a foundation for us to grow upon because we actually will have more calls on this sort of topic if the community is interested in it. So I just wanted to do this bit of a brief overview so that we have something to grow from. Like, for example, I do have an idea for a call going over demonstrating how to set MetaMask, as Jackie suggested. And I also have another concept for a call going a bit more in depth as to Ethereum, because Ethereum and Web3 are technologies that underpin a lot of the cryptocurrency environment nowadays. So I actually do have a lot that I'm looking forward to. And he'll probably be there at that point too, because honestly, I'm really not a fan of doing presentation style types of calls. I'm really more of a fan of doing demonstration types of calls. So MetaMask would be a good example of that, showcasing how to install it and how to set it up. That would be a good example of the sort of call that I would enjoy doing more. But absolutely. DD Moore says, I was late getting on, so I look forward to hearing the recording. But what I heard was very good. Thanks for the help. Thank you very much. Robin says, this call was what I needed. Great job. Liam says, very good, Hunter. Thank you. Alrighty, so if there's nothing else, I'll go ahead and stop the recording. Then after that, I'll definitely wait for Zoom to do its thing, but I'll put this recording up onto my YouTube channel when I'm able to do so. So with that, I'd say this was a pretty good first call for this community. And again, I look forward to doing more like these. So I'll go ahead and stop the recording.